So I'm working on a 2015 Ford Flex right now, and it's cold. It's the middle of the Canadian winter. We just got hit by a polar vortex, and now we're getting some really nice balmy days that are like -3 during the day and -12 at night. So yeah, intermittent heat on this has not been the most fun thing to deal with. So let's have a look at diagnosing an intermittent heat problem. A couple of things you want to look at is, first thing, visual inspection. Here is my coolant reservoir, and then the first thing that I notice is that she's a little bit low. So where did it go? Cars will lose a little bit of coolant. I know some are worse than others over time, but typically it's a sealed system, so where does it go? I don't know. The other thing to check on that, and don't open these when they're hot, that'd be a video for another time. Even if there's coolant in there, so I mean I got coolant here, it's a little low, but it's in there. Let's check its strength. I've seen this kill radiators having old coolant that just freezes up. So here we go. It's not the cleanest coolant that I've ever seen, but it's not terrible. I've seen a lot worse. If it looks like chocolate milk, okay, we got a problem. But anyhow, so my freeze protection there is pretty aight. That looks like a little over, around -40 degrees. So if it gets that cold out, we got some problems, but this is probably due for a flush. It's 15, don't know if it's been flushed before, and we're a little bit low. So it's my first day. After checking the coolant, making sure that there's actually coolant there, my next step on this, I want to talk to the customer and find out, hey, what makes the heat intermittent? Like, what do you mean? Is it the blower? Is it the actual heat, so it still blows strong but it's not giving you hot air? What exactly is it doing? Or replicate the problem. So I'm going to fire this thing up, and I'm going to throw my scan tool on it so we can check and see, because I want to isolate, is it a cooling system issue or is it an issue with the blend doors? So we got to get that isolated and figured out, and we'll move on from there. Let's fire this baby up, get her warming up, and I want to crush my super sweet sunglasses. That'd be pretty terrible. Bruh. Based on the symptoms, I'm pretty sure that we're dealing with a cooling system issue here, and not a blend door issue. But you know, any modern vehicle, I think it's always a reasonable idea to check. And you never know what you might find. Sometimes you find thermostat codes. I found one on a Caravan not that long ago that solved all of his heating issues. Okay. Don't look at my code, man. That's not cool. The other thing to look for is, what is my engine temp saying? So if I have no engine temp on my dash, or it's not coming up to temp, I should say, I'm looking for the thermostat problem. So isn't my engine getting up to operating temperature? Because if the engine's not getting up to operating temperature, we're not going to have any heat. However, unfortunately or unfortunately, this engine is getting up to operating temperature. So let's have a look here, and I'm gonna hit my auto scan button. I'm letting this thing warm up so I can start to feel it. Gotta have my heated seats and my heated steering wheel. Gotta keep my scan tool warm, you know. Right now, my heat's actually okay. That's always the fun thing about an intermittent problem, is sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. When did I have intermittent heat on this? They're in the midst of our polar vortex, so there was no heat. Now that it's an okay-ish day, if you throw a coat on, yeah, of course I'm gonna have some heat. But let's take a look. Well, this loads up. So I got a pretty cool new tool that I'm gonna give a go-to for diagnosing things like this. And this isn't so much the actual diagnosis that I need this tool for, but I got a little, check that out. Plugs into your phone, or this plugs right into the scan tool. It's a thermal imager, and this is really good for confirming with the customers, proving it. Prove your problem, prove the fix. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit here. Just going through the scan, and let's see what it has to say. pretty neat feature here, the network topology, showing me what modules on what network. I like it. Oh, look at that. We don't have a Recum. Don't even know what that is. We got all our fancy information on there. What modules, what faults, that's what I'm looking for. So I got an accessory protocol interface module, memory card, yeah, my navigation's out of date on this. Driver's door module, I've got codes for position, sensor, circuit faults, and that one's an interesting one. The instrument panel control module has a battery voltage code. That's never good, that's never a good sign. But I don't have anything related to the HVAC module. Back out of my report and find her right there. No DTCs. Enter! So what's really useful here in this module is going to be, since I don't have any fault codes, my data stream and possibly my actuation tests or special functions. Let's just select all. And what do I have here? Okay, my recirc motor. Am I recirculating the air? Am I taking in fresh air? This one's taking in fresh air. My air conditioning's off. Position of my air mode actuators, my blend doors, the motor, blower motor speed, evaporator temperature, that's useful. Front blower relay off, that's interesting. Interior temperature, yeah, of course it's gonna work. You go to record a video and it always works. Blend door position, hot. Left blend door position, 100%. Outside temp is cold. It says rear blower off, but it sounds like it's on. Not hugely a fan of these automatic heating systems, or climate control systems, I guess we call them. So I do have my auto set to off. My blower motor's on just under half. The rear system is off. You don't really need to go through with a bidirectional scan tool to be able to manually test all this, because I can just use all my knobs and my settings, my dials. They're working just fine, and I can move my blend doors, and I can feel that it's going from hot to cold when I go through the temperature and I set it all. I much prefer the knobs and the dials, but what the heck, what do I know? So all of that looks okay. If I go out of my data stream, I can go into my actuation tests, and this is where it's kind of neat. So my blend doors, right now it's at 100%. Well, I can change that. I can take it down to 0%. And guess what? It is getting cold at my left side heater vents. Since I got this lovely little infrared scanner, why don't we take a look at that? Plug that sucker in and let's prove what we're doing. Look at my passwords, man. Ambient temp. It's cold outside. Okay, on my scan tool here, my left blend door position is at 0%. So I can see that I have, come on you, there's a couple different modes on this. Let's just go to the regular infrared. The dual light is really cool for giving you more details, but then it also uses two lenses, and it works better when it's kind of closer. Sometimes when you go too far away, or if you're sitting right up too close, the two lenses don't track that great, but really neat little tool. Okay, so I got 74 degrees out of this side, and then the one that's got just the cool, look at that, I'm at 22 degrees. As I add value back to my blend door position, we can see that that blend door is working just fine. I now have heat coming out of this vent, and I always had heat coming out of that one. Yeah, that's warming up. Check that out. That's the grid, the heating grid inside the steering wheel. That's pretty stinking cool. See my GoPro there? Yeah, look at all that detail. Hello, Nikon camera. Neat. Anyways, the ADD is strong in me today. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. The active tests are neat for being able to test that. In this particular case, we can feel everything. When you do have a blend door problem, it is nice to be able to confirm it with your scan tool instead of just trying to use the module, because is it the buttons that are faulty, or is it the blend door itself? Is it the, what's that piece that activates it? The blend door actuator, DOI. what part is faulty, and you're able to control through the scan tool what the electronics should do. So if you had a busted up button here, this is where your actuators, your bidirectional controls are really useful. So I currently have heat here. Do I have heat down by my foot? Yep, yes I do. So I don't see any problem electronically. Let's go back underneath the hood and let's see what we've got out there. Snake. The dog's barking at it. Crazy dogs. So I'm back under the hood now, and what I want to do is I want to check the mechanical operation, or maybe what I should say is the hydraulic operation of the system. So I'm going to have a look at the heater core. This one's not too terrible to access. My heater core lines are back there, and I should have one of these should be right hot, and then the other one should be hot but slightly less warm. And by the feel of it, by hand, I can feel, okay, that one there is pretty hot. The one on the left, it's not terrible, but it's not great. So let's prove this. And this is where I like my thermal imager here. Oh, where I can see, yeah, look at that. Those ones look pretty darn close right now. This, that isn't too bad, which is probably why I have heat. Let's see here, I can add an extra point to measure. And I've got like 71 degrees, 70 degrees, and 63 degrees. That's pretty good, actually. Like, I'm happy to see that. So, I guess this is the point where I'm going to have to overlay a picture that I took yesterday when I was looking at this thing. And it had a very substantial difference in temperature between the two. Now let's compare this to a known good. Okay, what do we have here? That's a little closer. So that's within about 5 degrees Celsius. Look at that. Like 60 degrees coming out of my heat vents. Heckin' yeah. Good heat in this old girl. Good floor heat too. So comparatively, yeah, right now the heat in this is working nice. Of course it is. I love intermittent problems. So, of course this is working properly right now, but it's an intermittent problem. I know that the other day when I went and I did this yesterday, did the same temperature test when it wasn't working properly, and I confirmed that we have a partially plugged heater core, which makes sense on a vehicle that's 10 years old, 150-ish thousand kilometers, and as far as we know, it hasn't had a coolant flush. Coolant doesn't look the worst, but it also doesn't look the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flush the heater core out, and then we're going to run the thing, test it. I got a few other things I'm working on this, so I'm going to drive it for a couple of days before it goes back to the customer, and I'm going to verify that that was in fact the repair. So thankfully I was able to verify that that's the problem, but it doesn't help when it's working right now. I'm going to flush it, and then in theory it should show, hey, yeah, everything's good, everything's fixed. So I do always like to verify the problem when possible before handing a vehicle back to my customer.